Good afternoon, class. So today is 24th of February, and we will have to cover the current affairs of today. The first news is related to Prime Minister Oli, who is the head of Nepal state, we can say, and it have come as a shock to Mr. PM Oli because the Supreme Court of the Nepal have said and paved the way for the restoration of the parliament over there. They have said that this is unconstitutional. It is also welcomed by the opposition leaders. They have said that it was earlier the death of the democracy and not just the constitution, as the Supreme Court have given the decision, which is backed by the five-member bench of the Supreme Court of Nepal. The restoration of the democracy and the human rights has been done. So I think it is a big blow. We will have to see how the further political and the political and the influential activities or the interference from China will roll out in the upcoming days. So we will have to again keep a good eye on what will be happening in the political developments that will be happening across the border. The next news is vaccine rollout for older persons soon. So all the persons who are above 50 years of age and the persons who have comorbidities above 45 years of age, the government have made a plan for them. They have said that all these persons will start getting vaccinated from March 1. So there is increasing possibility that these people will be vaccinated uh, in any time soon, and they will be receiving the vaccine, making India occupying the herd immunity. But right now, the pilot project that is currently going through, I think it has been largely successful. There have been very few casualty that is currently conducting on the healthcare workers and the sanitation workers, which are at the forefront of the COVID fight. So we have not heard any of the adverse reactions of the vaccine, but we are also not sure still about the efficacy, that how much it have helped in the containment of the virus. But as for now, the vaccine is safe, so that's why it has been rolled out, or it is being rolled out to a larger section of people now. But please understand, this is a or you can say different category of people. We will have to see how much effect it will have on the well-being or the health, or if there are any adverse reactions that are involved, how much effect it will have on them. So we will again have to see that. Okay, further moving on. The next news is related to the human rights are everyone's business. Please understand, this article is written against a particular statement that Mr. Amit Shah have issued, who have said that the sovereignty of the India is sacrosanct and no foreign nation has or should dare to even comment on the domestic politics that is happening in India. Now, I have got two questions for that. I am talking only about in the premise of the article, but only two questions. If you are following the rule-based order, I don't think that any scrutiny should be offending to you. You should be working for upholding of the human rights. The scrutiny, even if it's done by the domestic factors or by the international factors, should not be a problem. The second issue is, if sovereignty is the problem, maybe the other nations are not qualified enough to comment on whatever the domestic policies we want to adopt, but they are definitely free in raising the issues with respect to the human rights, because this is what India have upheld it for. When we go to the world, we talk about our good record, or you can say our humane approach in treating all the crises that happened all the world, and justification in upholding the human rights if any kind of rights are being violated. For example, in the case of Myanmar, we have already issued a statement that the upholding of the democratic government elected by the people should be restored as soon as people, and the military should pave way for the democratic constitutionalism. In the case of Rohingyas, we have already approached the humane approach. We have said that we will provide them sufficient amount of money, help them in other ways. We will certainly not allow them to have their permanent bases on the Indian territory. In the case of apartheid that happened in South Africa, we have issued statement in the favor of Mr. Nelson Mandela when he was tried by the military regime over there, and when the civil war was going, and he was on the trial of a death sentence. So we have vehemently opposed that particular move that was done by the South African rebellions. Now that is what our track record have been. Now, when we talk about why the government is warning, government have started all those people who have been put accountability to the people. Now, this is indirectly saying to the common people. For example, if you see the case of Disha Ravi, I have already told you at that particular point that whenever it comes to scrutiny, the government of the day is always accountable. You cannot crush the voice of all those people who are raising concerns against you or raising a different ideology, or if having or possessing a different ideology could amount to the charges of sedition or unlawful activities, then that is shame on the part or shame on the vision of the India that our forefather have seen for. So this should not be done. However, Supreme Court is always in the balance of power, and Supreme Court have given direct recommendations, although very subtly, to the central government that you should not be doing such things. Merely presenting a dissent note on any of the policies or merely participating or creating a WhatsApp group online does not amount the charges of sedition. Now, these are the other things that they have said. When we talk about Pandit Nehru, the Pandit Nehru has talked about the most elaborative existence of the human rights in the world. And when the charter was being adopted, we had the biggest approach in uplifting the human rights issue, because we already have gotten from the grip of, you can say, Britishers or the people from England. So we have batted heavily for upholding of any kind of human right, even before the nation. When we talk about that the idea of nation, this is said by Mr. Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi have said that the idea of nation, that we want to build our India and the people who want to self-regulate themselves, and the nationalism will not be a compromise with the internationalism. When we talk about nationalism, we are also upholding the value of the internationalism. So if human rights are respected in India, they should also be respected worldwide, and we will continue to raise the movement or raise the voices against any form of violation or any form of human rights violation anywhere in the world. And this is what we have done over the years at multiple times, at multiple occasions and multiple incidents. Now, India has also been attributed to the start of a program called as decolonization, because at that particular time when India said to the world, or actually set an example to the world, that decolonization can happen. So it gave a multiple rise, a simultaneous rise, a coordinated rise in the countries who were under different European powers to get them or seek independence from these European powers, and they have gathered together to gain their freedom also. So that was the record, or the historical record of India. If we talk about Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan and the statement that are made by B.R. Ambedkar, please remember, I have already told you, B.R. Ambedkar was a Pandit. Although a lot of people see him as a Dalit leader, but he was the Pandit of the Hindu sect. And why I say that, we will read his statement and then I will tell you. But before that, Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan have also said that whenever there is any form of right or any form of violation that is being curtailed by the central government, or any form of dissent that is being curtailed by the central government, it is direct attack and it is a form of despotism that the central government is being committed. Our democracy, if it has to fulfill all its potentials, all its targets and all its vision, it have to certainly be focused on the idea of India, where merely agreeing with some other person does not amount to amnesty with one another. Now let's come to the B.R. Ambedkar statement, and please remember, this statement is very important. You write it in the essay paper. I'm telling you, 2 marks extra will be given to you. So what is the statement that B.R. Ambedkar have given? B.R. Ambedkar have written that liberty, equality and fraternity, although these 3 words are enshrined in the constitution and they can be understood in individual sense, but B.R. Ambedkar have said that all these 3 are interdependent, interrelated and providing meaning to different aspects in a collaborative manner. So he said that when we talk about equality, if you only focus on equality, then liberty, if it is not given, if you only focus on equality, then some of the people will always gain supremacy on some other people. So if you treat everybody equally, then the rich will remain richer, the poor will remain poor. This is the crux of first thing. So he says that liberty of freedom, thought expression should also be provided, so that the poor people should also decide that what will be the policy they desire from the government. It should not be consolidated into the hands of the few. So first statement he made is that liberty without equality, liberty will produce supremacy of few over many. So if you give them liberty and there is no equality that is being realized, I have confused it the first time. This is the correct statement. Without equality, liberty will produce supremacy of few over many. So if you give liberty to everybody, everybody will do whatever they want to do. So you have to ensure equality so that all people are on a common platform. The second statement he have given is equality without liberty will kill individual initiative. So if you give everybody equality, then all the person who want to shine, they will not be able to shine. So you need a capitalist economy in which equality and liberty both needed to be provided. If certain person want to do something away from what they have been doing for years now, that is also needed to be provided. And lastly, he have made a very important statement. Please remember this statement. He said that if there is no fraternity, then liberty and equality will become a thing that is always needed to be enforced. Now, I have told you when we talked about the preamble of India, most of the people have taken the word fraternity in a very lighter sense. Please understand, sir, this is the preamble of India, and the preamble of India is not a lighter thing to take for. When it is mentioned, unity and fraternity among the people of India, fraternity, B.R. Ambedkar has said that fraternity is the only thing that will make other people to understand. Agar bhaichara hoga, then only you will understand the circumstances of other. So he says that if the liberty and equality is not provided with fraternity, then all liberty and equality had to be enforced by the law. That's why the reservation with respect to SC, ST and OBC was not in the constitution, that was already there. The reservation came later. Direct reservation in promotions, direct reservation in the test, they came around 1990s. So I hope this is clear. So B.R. Ambedkar was hoping for an India that run by fraternity, in which all the people will live in harmony with one another. They respect the SC/ST community and not bridge the gap between the two communities. So I hope this is clear. Now, in the end, the international significance, we need to understand that PM Modi have already set FDI as a foreign destructive ideology. Now, there are just ideology, there is no destructive ideology that is there. Of course, there are certain issues on which we want to ensure that we as a nation are still not very far behind in the ideas that you are talking about. We have worked for the nature, and this, yes, that is a thing to be proud of. Yoga is also a thing that India have provided as a gift to the world, and that is also a thing to be proud of. But talking everything that is coming from the West and picturing it in only one color, that it is only destroying the culture of India, is not what the forefathers have desired for us. They have worked for the internationalism. They have worked that India should gain its place in the norms of the international communities. And if there are any form of international accountability that is being enforced from India, I think India should be more than happy that there are some countries on which we can basically put a scrutiny and we can provide them a set of improvements that are needed to be done by the particular country for better conduct of the human rights. There are some countries in the world, for example, China and North Korea, where you do not even know that what form of violations are being committed. They do not even have ever heard of what is human rights and how the violations are being committed. Okay? So we should be happy that we are being adjudged. But on the other hand, if there are direct attack on the borders or the policy that the Indian Parliament is framing, we should also protect the sovereignty by saying that this is completely our internal matter. You need not to interfere in this particular matter. For example, we should not allow any foreign leader to sit in the farmer protest. That is definitely true in upholding the sovereignty. But when it comes to human rights violation, the human rights violation should be upheld all around the world. If there is scrutiny, we should be considering ourselves lucky that the scrutiny is happening. It will only ensure that the better accountability of India at the international platform would happen in the near future, and better upholding of the rights will happen, okay, of the Indian people and also the community that is situated worldwide. So I hope this is clear. The next news is related to the after the coup. Now, this is the Myanmar military crisis. What are the options that they have? There have been protests that are currently going on, and how the military should stop, how the military should deal with the common people, how the Myanmar military has been considered as the enemies of the democracies in the rural people. There have been protests that are currently going on. We have already talked about what happened in Myanmar. In 1998, the first election happened. After that, for 15 years, there were no elections or no democratically elected government. Then elections happened in 2017, and this government was supposed to be staying till 2022. But before that, as the new election happened in 2017, so after that, the coup was conducted mainly because of three or four reasons. We have already studied about it. We will again have to see that how much the Myanmar people will be running on the streets. Although the NLD government, that is the National League for Democracy, that is there, have already announced that they will work or will continue work for the people of the Myanmar and will provide them with a representative policy. The problem of the army is that they are losing majority in the House of the Parliament, and it may happen that over time the policy will be dominated by the people of Myanmar and not dominated by the people of the army. You must know there are odd 600 seats over there. 1/3 of the seats of these 600 are reserved for the army. Still, you need 2/3 of the votes that are there. In that, the Myanmar NLD party, that is headed by Aung San Suu Kyi, basically have gotten 88% of the remaining seats. And there is another party which the army indirectly supports. They have performed very well, winning approximately, I think, 35 seats of the total seats that were left out. So out of 400 seats, they have only won somewhere around 30 or 35 seats. So that is a huge jolt into the army power, and the people have moved forward. That's why this was the coup, and there were some certain petty reasons also. I will not go into them. They have already been discussed in the previous lectures, but I hope you understand what is the Myanmar crisis. The Myanmar military should move fast to end the political crisis that it had made on its own. So there should be increasing pressure on the Myanmar military general who have ordered the coup ticket on, I do not exactly remember the date, but I think it have happened somewhere in the month of January. So I hope this is clear. The next one is the writing more of India into Tibetology. Now this is a very lighter written article, and we also cannot expect more from the student and teacher who have collaborated to write this particular article. Now, what they have talked about the importance of Tibet, the geography of Tibet, the political sphere of Tibet in a relation between India and China. Now, they have taken the evidence or the cue from the demand of army, in which they have said that the Tibetan history needed to be explored and it is needed to be type of put into words so that people will know that how the Tibetan history have been changing over the years. When we talk about Tibet, the first negotiations that the people of Tibet had, if you have heard or learned about the history of Himachal Pradesh, you would definitely have learned about 2 or 3 interferences of Tibet into the region of Kinnaur and Spiti. Now we have seen all kind of this influence across the border. So these two particular persons believe that when we try to understand the Tibetan policy, we are only understanding the Tibetan policy across the border. China does not recognize Tibet, although the forefathers of India have maintained good relations with the Tibet. So the India as a democracy, when it was organized, we had good relations with Tibet. We provided asylum to the holy spiritual leader of Buddhist called as Dalai Lama, and he is currently situated in the state of HP, located at Dharamshala. Before that, even if we go further in the history, the British have negotiated treaty with Tibet because Tibet was famous for wool and other items, for example silk, yarn and porcelain. These were some of the items, musk. These were some of the items that were exported from Tibet to the British India and from here to the world. Now, China does not recognize any treaty or any treaty that Britishers had with the Tibet. So they have occupied the territory of Tibet, and these two persons suggest that Tibet should not be understood in the way of the territory. It should be understood in the way of the culture, how they existed as a community, how they survived at the bigger reaches of the Himalayas, and what is their role in maintaining good relations between India and China, because the relations or the understanding of the LAC should not be there. So we will have to improve more organizations that are solely focused on the Tibetan studies, and this Tibetan studies will basically help India having a more practical approach in dealing with the Chinese authorities and also invoking different kind of you can say nationalism. We can also give or can give rise to the nationalism of Tibetan people. So these are some of the things that you should understand. Okay, next one is the excise duty fiscal policy contradiction. Now this is a classic case of fiscal deficit and the approach of the government. So you need not to read the whole article. I will only give you 5 or 6 points that will explain the whole article. He starts by explaining that the petrol prices are increasing and government is saying that the petrol prices cannot be reduced. That is the first thing he have noticed. Now he says that the government opinion is coming from that particular fact that is also stated in the economic survey chapter 2, and there is some economist, you need not to remember the name. This economist have said that if the government in the time of the recession spend by taking loan from the market for the growth of the economy, then if the interest rates are low as compared to the growth of the economy, the debt will be served and will be contained under control. तो व्हाट डज इन सिंपल लैंग्वेज इट मीन्स कि अगर आप ग्रोथ को पुश करने के लिए लोन लेते हैं तो जो लोन पे आप इनकम या लोन जो आपको वापस पे करना पड़ेगा ओवर द टाइम ग्रोथ इतनी हो जाएगी कि उसकी वजह से वो सारा का सारा लोन जो आपने पहले लिया है ग्रोथ के लिए दैट विल बी रिकवर्ड. द अदर आर्गुमेंट इज इफ यू टेक अ लोन फ्रॉम समबडी today and you want to finance something else for tomorrow, there may be a possibility that you are always running between the banks for taking loans. So that is called as debt trap. So you will take a loan from here, you will pay the loan somewhere else, and as the date of payment of that particular person will come, you will have to take another loan for the payment to that particular person. This is the whole philosophy he is talking about. He have put it in a more economist way, but this is what he has said. Now, he says that the traditional economics, when we talk about, tells us that when there is a inequality that is rising in the society and unemployment that is rising in the society, there is one thing that you should do. It says that the rich should be taxed. But the Modi government, it is wanting to manage its pro-business approach so that the businesses from other countries will come to India, they will bring in the capital, and therefore, they have declined that the rich will not be taxed and another taxation on the rich will not be put, and the poor are getting taxed. How the poor are getting taxed? Because I have already told you the increase in the inflation is a type of indirect tax that the poor people are paying. Whether it is direct, whether it is indirect, they will have to pay at other point in some commodities. For example, whenever the petrol price is increasing, there is an increase in all the commodities that you are buying day to day. Now that is a direct burden on the poor people and not burden on the government. The government is hoping that as the taxation will be coming from petrol prices, they will be able to push up their economy by getting some advantage from the taxes that they will be taking. But you must understand this particular thing. If the prices of every commodity increases, isn't it so that the people who want to spend will not spend anymore? For example, if the petrol prices will increase, there may be some people in India who will try to delay the vehicles they want to buy, or who will try to do away with some of the consumption for certain time now. So if the consumption is decreasing, then actual projections of the government for the taxation, because the government taxation is currently based on consumption. More the consumption, more the taxation. Simple concept. If you eat one Maggie, the government is getting 2 rupee tax. If you eat very huge amount of Maggie every day, the government is getting the huge amount of tax from you. Okay, it depends on the consumption. Now, he believes that the traditional approach that the government is doing will have no multiplier effect in the economy. It is certainly a tax on the poor. He simply says that I am not criticizing the government move because the government want to make a different approach for the growth of the economy. Government want to say, or government want to see that if the businesses are welcomed in India, they will bring in capital, they will bring in money with them. And as people will get employed, the consumption will also increase. Now that is the alternative way for looking at it. But if the consumption is not going to increase at the forefront, why the company will come to India? So in that particular part, he have given an argument that maybe we want to become the export hub of the world. And if you want to become the export hub of the world, you will have to go from a certain lean period of unemployment in which every year 1 crore people are getting into the job market and they are not finding any jobs, they are not finding any valid opportunities according to the qualification that they have possessed. So I hope this is clear. The next news is related to being petroleum independent. Now, this is emphasis on the green technology. If we want to move away from the fossil fuel technology with respect to the power and the mobility concerns that we have, we will have to focus on green technology. And when we talk about green technology, we will have to focus on the diversification of the technology. In that particular part, Mr. Modi has been given or have given this statement as the previous government did nothing to basically popularize the green technology methods. That's why we have such a huge import bill, putting carpet on all the things that or all the benefits that his government is earning from the petrol prices. Now, on the other hand, if we talk about the National Electrical Mobility Mission Plan, then you should remember this was started by Manmohan Singh and he provided for full fuel efficient standards. And when we talk about the policy of Mr. Manmohan Singh, it was currently focused at that particular time in 2005 or 2008. I do not remember the year correctly, but I think it was in 2008 or 2009 when for the first time the electric mobility was discussed. But in that particular time, the focus was on the hybrid vehicle. And of course, the focus should have been on the hybrid vehicle because the technology for development of the electric vehicle was not available at that time. If you see the establishment of Tesla, I think Tesla came somewhere around in 2013 and 14, which was the first company in the world to provide fully electrical vehicle, that too at a higher cost in the market of USA. So that was still a problem. Now, even if you are able to think that, I think you should hats off to Mr. Manmohan Singh that he have thought that India need to shift its focus from the huge petroleum crude oil bill to some hybrid vehicles. Now, from his initiative, certain buses were converted into CNG, certain cars were converted into CNG, although they were successful in their own manner, but still the initiative was taken and some inroads has been made. When we talk about another government scheme, that is the FAME scheme, that is the faster adoption and the manufacturing of electric vehicles, that is solely based on the electric vehicle manufacturing. It is focused on two-wheelers, taxis and buses. The suggestion of the author, Mr. Anup, is that it should be extended to tractor, heavy and commercial vehicle. Apart from that, there is another policy suggestion that he have given. He says that there need to be a zero emission vehicle. Now, what does he mean by zero emission vehicle? He says that all the manufacturers who are in India or who are existing in India, they basically need to provide a certain quota or certain quota of electrical vehicle for every amount of fossil fuel vehicle they are manufacturing. Now, this is needed to be implemented in a stringent manner. And of course, if the government regulation provides so, the government can do it. So if let's say Tata is producing 500 fossil fuel vehicles who are running on petrol and diesel, it can be suggested to Tata that at least 20% of it you should work and you should provide in the market in the form of electrical vehicle. The basic premise of Mr. Anup is that you should give people option. If the option is given, maybe some people will take it depending on the preferences, depending on the facility. But if you do not make them available with the option in the market, there is no possibility that anything is going to change. So I hope this is clear. Okay, next one is the proper transfer policy needed. Now, this is again related to the frequent transfer of IAS officers and the civil servants that are currently made from one place to another. That has been criticized here, and he have only reflected, Zubair Nazir have only reflected that good governance and better administration is most importantly the answer in the cases of any type of crisis or conflict that is currently happening. Civil servants are at the key, at the forehead of the security of tenure to govern the nations, and whenever there is a policy that is not getting implemented at a certain time or the results are not seen at a certain time, it is often because of the transfer policy that are adopted by the politician, because of the local MLAs and the preferences of the ministers. When we talk about, there is a particular platform that is available on the Ministry of Personnel Department called as Supremo. Supremo stands for Single User Platform related to employees online. Now, this deals with all the magistrates and all of the people. On that particular part, the report suggested that the magistrate tenure at an average place is just about 15 months. And when there are some IS officers who are highly honest or do not toe the line of the government, they get transferred many times. For example, Mr. Khemka and Mr. Kashni has been transferred approximately 50 times in their tenure. So in the job of 30 years, they have been transferred 50 times. So hardly at a particular place, they have not stayed for more than 9 months. You can usually assume that. Now, Mr. Kashni has been transferred 65 times, so maybe 30 times, so every 6 months he has been transferred. Now, the second ARC report have also highlighted this particular issue, that is the Administrative Reform Commission. They have said that this needed to be changed in one way or another. Either they should have a security of the tenure, or certain compulsions needed to be highlighted by the politicians or the ministers also, that if they are changing somebody from some other place, they should also have a justification in the Supreme Court. But then the usual argument will again favor in the sense that the politicians are elected for the will of the people. If any officer is not working according to the will, or he is not working in serving the best interest of the society, the power of the minister should have been to change that particular officer from that particular site. And then there is Hoto committee who have said that one reason for the tardy implementation of the policies is that the people who are involved in the implementation at the grassroots levels are not treated fairly by the politician and not treated fairly by any other organizations. So I hope this is clear. Okay, further moving on, the next news is related to Indradhanush 3.0 to fill gap in the immunization due to COVID. So Indradhanush 3 has been started, and there are approximately 2,900 children and 5,000 women who were covered on the first day in the states and the union territories. So more will be covered. And why this Indradhanush 3 is related? Indradhanush 3 is related to immunization. Please remember this. I think when we talk about the previous year question paper, 2 times this question has been asked somewhere indirectly or indirectly. So you should remember all the 18 vaccines that are currently administered in it, and which are the classified. Approximately 300 districts are classified, which are high risk districts, and then there are 250 high risk districts, or 300, I do not remember the exact number. Somewhere between 250 to 300 there are high risk districts where the vaccination is very important. So they are being targeted at a first instance, and then there will be targeting of another districts. So how many districts are there in India? Approximately 750. Okay, please remember this. They were earlier I think 730, but now they might have increased up to 750. Okay, next one is DAC clears bill worth 13,700 crore. So Department of Acquisition Council, sorry, not department, but Defense Acquisition Council, that is headed by the Defense Minister, usually have said that the procurement will be running and more procurement will be happening of 118 Arjun MKA tank. So that is probably going to be deployed on the northern borders against Pakistan and against China. And there are other that are also included facilities. For example, yesterday we talked about a Bharat Forge all-terrain vehicle that is armed, called as Kalyani M4. It will replace the old Maruti Suzuki vehicles that are available with the army personals. The next one is the Nag missile carrier. They will also be ordered. And then there is Arudhra medium power radars. So they all will be contained in that. Okay, moving further. Imran pitches economic corridor to Sri Lanka. Now, it has not been clarified that whether it will be a land corridor or whether it will be a water corridor or the maritime corridor, but still this was the first major visit of Mr. Imran Khan to any of the state, and Sri Lanka hosted the first physical presence of any state leader at a particular conference. Now they have termed each other as all-weather friend. However, there have been accusation that the Easter attack that happened on certain communities in Sri Lanka in I think 2017 or 2018, I am not very sure of the particular year when it happened, but when it was criticized and certain links were also found. Even the agencies that are situated in USA have also confirmed that Pakistan have to do something with the attacks that happened in the Sri Lankan churches. So these are other issues that are needed to be understood here. Okay, but he have said, and India have also said, that it is, if you want to continue with this, it is definitely true, but you should not do this because there are certain concerns of sovereignty with India. Although Pakistan have said that they have already joined the CPEC and they want SLPEC, that is Sri Lanka Pakistan Economic Corridor. Maybe land corridor from India will allow or not, we do not know. But India, if it is related to the connectivity for Sri Lanka to the Central Asia, will definitely allow the one side flow of the goods, because India is also not going to be on the losing side with this. Okay, further moving on, the next one is the Reliance to hive off Wild 2 Chemicals into a unit with 25 billion loan. So they will take 25 billion loan and a new unit will be created that will directly convert Wild 2 Chemicals. The next one is the pharma export to Arab nations has been cumbersome. This is highlighted by the Indian pharmaceutical trade body, which have said that we not only want to trade in hydrocarbons, we want to trade in different kind of pharma and different kind of food products, because Arab nations are also looking at different sources and different multiple diversification of food that they want to take. We want India and Arab nation states to go. If we talk about all over trade, the approximate trade that we had with the Arab nation is approximately 20% of the total India trade. The food supply, the Arab countries are also looking for diversification. And so I think that is it for today. No need to go into details what the food security is. So आज के लिए इतना ही करते हैं.